Hello everyone, welcome to Tathastu-ICS. I hope you all are doing good. Well, today we are going to discuss a topic which has been categorically mentioned in your UPSC syllabus, and UPSC has been constantly asking from this particular topic in UPSC mains as well as in UPSC essays also. And the topic is poverty, and all the policies which have been made in India and across the world. The primary purpose or the ultimate aim to make these policies is to fight this poverty, ultimately to achieve a better standard of living. And to achieve a better standard of living, the biggest hurdle is this poverty thing. Okay, so today we are going to discuss something about this. Well, the news is that NITI Aayog has published the second edition of Multidimensional Poverty Index, while the name is National Multidimensional Poverty Index. Okay, so we are going to talk about this thing because in this report it has been said that in last 5 years 13.5 crore Indians have come out of poverty. I have come out of multi-dimensional poverty. So we'll discuss what is this multi-dimensional poverty, how to measure all these things, and what are its effects. Okay, so let us start. Let me tell you the news first. The NITI Aayog has published the second edition of Multidimensional Poverty Index, and the report highlights a record 13.5 crore people have moved out of multidimensional poverty in India between 2015 to 2019 and 21. Okay, so this was the 5-year term. Earlier, 5 years back, the people who were under poverty were around 24.55% around. Today, after this report mentions that the number has drastically reduced in percentage terms, it's a reduction of 9 point something percent. Okay, so today the poverty rate is less than 15%, it's around 14.96%. Okay, let's move on. What is multidimensional poverty? Let's look at the definition. Well, a person who is poor can suffer multiple disadvantages at the same time. It essentially means गरीबी में आटा गीला. एक तरफ गरीबी तो है ही, and there are other problems which are also associated with it. And the other problems other than poverty are, for example, people may have poor health, or they could be suffering from malnutrition. They are lacking clean water. They might also be lacking regular supply of electricity. There could be poor quality of work, poor quality of office environment, poor quality of education, little schooling. So all these things added up with poverty is called multidimensional poverty. With the name also suggests poverty and its multiple dimensions. Okay, so focusing on one thing, focusing on one factor alone, such as income, is not enough to capture the true reality of poverty. Why this is not enough? Because there are other things also which is hampering the holistic development of that particular individual and the holistic development of the society as well. So the multidimensional poverty is a measure of poverty that captures deprivation, and this is a definition given by the World Bank. So as per the World Bank, multidimensional poverty is the deprivation in education and access to basic infrastructure in addition to poverty. Okay, so this is the basic definition given by the World Bank. Now let's move forward. While the MPI, the multidimensional index, has been used by the United Nations Development Program in the flagship Human Development Report. So this Human Development Report has been published by UNDP, United Nations Development Program, and this particular report is being based on three things: health, education, and the standard of living. Similarly, to count the MPI or this also depends on these three things. Now, what is National Multidimensional Poverty Index? This is which NITI Aayog releases. So National NITI Aayog serves as the nodal ministry for this particular initiative, for this particular multidimensional index, which would be launched nationally, which would be released nationally, and it engages publishing agencies such as, now these are the two agencies with which NITI Aayog engages to release this report. The agency is important. One is UNDP, United Nations Development Program, and other is OPHI, Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative. So one is this, and this is a factual information, important factual information which could be asked in your prelims examination. So just be aware of it. One is that OPHI and second is UNDP. I said this 2-3 times, it just stuck in your mind. Okay, this particular report, this particular index, National Multidimensional Poverty Index, uses a methodology, it uses a method called Elkair-Foster. Now, what is Elkair-Foster? Basically, similarly to Human Development Report, it also uses particularly three things to define the level of poverty. One is education, other is health, and third is standard of living. Okay, so these are the three things which are required. The baseline report of MPI is based on the National Family Health Survey. This is also a factual information. It might be useful for you in the preliminary examination as well. So the baseline report of MPI is based on the National Family Health Survey. Now, what are the indicators which have been used or which are being used for this? As I told you, three things have been used, just like HDR, Human Development Report, health, education, and standard of living. It includes indicators such as, these are some other indicators which have been taken into consideration. These are nutrition, child, adolescent morality, maternal care, years of schooling, school attendance, cooking oil, sanitation, drinking water, electricity, housing, bank accounts, and the assets related to the people. Okay. So this is the basic difference, or this is the basic definition of multidimensional poverty index. The difference between National Multidimensional Poverty Index, which has been released by NITI Aayog with the collaboration of two other agencies. What are those two other agencies? I repeatedly told you. Please, without going back, please write it down in the comment section. There are two other agencies with whom NITI Aayog publishes this report. Now, the key findings of this report. Let us discuss the key findings of this report. Why is this report has been discussed so much widely? So, one is the decline in poverty, and the decline is quite significant. In percentage terms, it is 9.89%. It's a big number, okay? In last 5 years, India has witnessed a substantial decline in multidimensional poverty with a decrease of 9.89% points from 24.85 in 2015-16 to 14.96 in 19 to 21. Okay. So this is the decline. This is the significant decline, and that is why it has been. You'll see this report everywhere. Okay, if there is a UPSC channel which is preparing for the examination, that is why you'll see this, because that is why it has been significant. Now, the progressiveness in the rural areas experienced the fastest decline from 32.59 to 19.28, while the urban areas saw a reduction from 8.65 to 5.27. That is why, because in rural areas the scope of decline is greater. That is why the percentage terms in which the decline has occurred is greater in the rural areas. Okay. So, one finding of the report is, in urban areas, the percentage term in which the poverty has been reduced is in between the 3.5%, while in the rural areas, have experienced a much faster decline, because the decline is of more than 11 to 12%. Okay, from 32.59% to it has been reduced to 19.28%. Now, the third thing is regional progress. Now, how is this regional progress? Because the UP has recorded the largest decline in the number of poor, with 3.43 crore people escaping the multidimensional poverty. So, number one is UP. The state of UP, Bihar, and Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, Rajasthan showed the fastest reduction in the proportion of multidimensional poor. Okay, and these are the states. Unfortunately, they've been covered in that Bimaru Raj. जो दर्जा दिया गया है बीमारू राज्य का, all these states are the part of that thing. Okay, and that is why the scope, just like in rural areas, the scope is larger. That is why the reports are better. The reports of difference in the reduction is better in rural areas, or more steeper, or more bigger in the rural areas. And similarly, the scope in UP, in Bihar, in Rajasthan is also bigger. That is why the records are showing these things. Now, fourth point is path towards SDG targets. The report indicates that India is on track to achieve SDG target 1.2, which aims to reduce the multidimensional poverty by at least half by 2030. So, by 2030, India is targeting to reduce its poverty by half, and SDG 1.12 talks about that thing only. Now, there is a question: what has kept Indians at multidimensional poverty? Okay, why the Indians are multidimensionally poor? Why 5 years back, this number in rural areas was around 32%. In urban areas also it was around 8%. So how are people, because the definition of multidimensionally poor is very scary. On one hand, an individual or the people who are lying into it, a society, they are poor. On the other hand, they are suffering from bad health. They are suffering from the excess of education, lack of access of education, and even the basic amenities of education, basic amenities of clean water and accessible supply of electricity. Okay, so why is this happening? So these are few reasons, and by taking a positive measure in these aspects, there would be chances of better result. Okay, so let me just a minute. What has kept Indians multidimensionally poor? Number one is lack of uniformity. How lack of uniformity? Because the poverty reduction is not equally represented in three main indicators, that is standard of living, health and education, and that is the reason why this difference is so much higher. Second is marginal health performance. Three sub indicators of health, which are nutrition, child and adolescent mortality. All these indicators and the maternal health show that only moderate improvement. Okay, in India there is only moderate improvement in health performances, and these health performances are based on three things: nutrition, child and adolescent mortality and mental health, and maternal health. Maternal health. Okay. Third is nutrition deprivation. It contributes to close of 30% highest in the calculation of MPI, which results in 1/3 of multidimensional poverty in India. Okay, so if 100 people are multidimensionally poor in India, 33%, almost 33 to 34 people are multidimensionally poor because of nutritional deprivation, and that is why it has been said the steep decline in poverty is because the basic amenities have been provided to people. Because of that free ration, people got this basic nutrition, and because they are not deprived of it, so these little things made a huge impact. Okay. Now the lack of education, as we discussed, lack of education is one of the basic amenity which is required to keep people out of this dimensionally poor loop. So it is due to the lack of years of schooling. Almost 16.65% people in India are lacking the required year of schooling in India, and less than desired school attendance. So if there is a minimal school attendance which is required to give the examinations, or if you wanted to be counted as you are going to the schools in India, there is a reality that there are states in UP, Bihar, in the regions in these, not only UP, Bihar, I have taken the name of these two states only, but there are things where the things are not very much streamlined, and in the rural areas, in the backward areas, there are instances where you get admission in the colleges and there is no need for you to go and give the examinations. Okay, so this is the reality of colleges in the backward areas, in the regions which are not very much linked with the urban areas or in the media limelight or in the newspapers. But in the schools also there are instances when almost 9.10% people are attending school less than what is required to be attended. Okay, so that is the reason why Indians have been kept multidimensionally poor. Fifth point is very basic thing, the cooking oil. So though it marked a significant improvement, around 44% of Indian population is still deprived of it. Okay, 44% of Indian people is still deprived of it. Sixth is sanitation. Despite its improvement, sanitation services are still deprived at around 30% of the population. Now, despite this, all the cleanliness drive and all those things where people are accepting that fact that the time has come where India should also be clean like other countries. Okay, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. So, despite all these things, the sanitation which is required is less than 30%. And the cooking oil thing is already 44% people are deprived of this basic cooking oil. Now the last thing is access to housing. So in India, 41% of the population is still deprived of housing, and because they are deprived of housing, they don't have a permanent shelter under the over their heads, so they for sanitation and for all those things, or the defecation and all those things, they have to go out in the villages or in the farmlands and all those things, and it eventually leads to the lack of sanitation. It eventually leads to the lack of awareness, to the lack of education, and ultimately people are fighting to get the access to housing, get the access to basic necessary things, so they get employed on the shops and all those things. That is why, so it's a vicious circle. That is why they're lacking education. So it's a vicious circle. One thing always leads to another. And by providing some basic nutrition, by providing some basic free ration, if things are done in that way, and that is why it has been done, that is why the result is so much heartwarming. Okay, so these are the things which were responsible which kept the Indians at multidimensionally poor. And if we are able to break this loop, if we are able to get few things correct in this whole kadhi, in this whole loop, one thing will, just like one poor thing leads to another poor thing, one good thing will eventually lead to another better thing. Okay, and all these indicators, maybe next time when the NITI Aayog report comes, hopefully the results would be more better. Hopefully we'll be discussing, the results will be more heartwarming. Okay, so this is it for today. We discussed about poverty, we discussed about multidimensional poverty and national multidimensional poverty, and how NITI Aayog is releasing it with two other agencies. I've asked you the two names. What are these two names? What are these two agencies with which NITI Aayog conducts this? Please write it down in the comment section. We'll meet in the other class. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.